Good evening, everybody. My name is Afolabi Ohunakin. I'm a medical doctor trained in OAU, set of 2005. And you're all welcome to the September edition of OAUMedtalks Edge Series. And today we're going to be having live after med school and balancing individual goals. And co-hosting with me tonight is Dr. Ibitokun and like I said earlier, I'm a doctor, maybe a native doctor, but then I have a certificate from OAU Med School. My specialty is family medicine, but I have a subspecialty as a palliative care physician. And currently, I'm practicing as occupational health physician with the Chevron Hospital here in Warri. And I have the honor to introduce my friend, Dr. Ibitokun to you tonight. Currently, she's an internal medicine hospitalist at Gulf Coast Medical Center, Florida, USA. She's a proud graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University Med School, Ilefe, and after her house job, she proceeded to the desert of Jigawa State to have a youth service. That was in 2008. And after that, like everybody else is doing now, she jumped back to the United States of America, where she bagged a big PhD in biomedical sciences and also a postdoctorate fellow from Oklahoma State University Center for Health Sciences. Science Graduate Student Award. She also completed her residency in internal medicine at Harlan Hospital Center, which is an affiliation of Columbia University Medical Center, New York. And currently, she is practicing as hospitalist at Gulf Coast Medical Center, Florida. She's also a member of the Hospital Ethics Committee and a member of the Pharmacy and Therapeutic Quality Committee of the same hospital. During her free time, she enjoyed spending time with her family, and she also liked to travel, though she has not gone to Mars or Pluto. She also has passion for unique art, pieces, and interior decoration. I hope she will be able to help us get the art from Ife and Bini from the UK now that Mama Charlie is gone. So, with a clapping ovation, please let me welcome Dr. Yinka Oyeyipo. Over to you, Yinka.
Thank you so much, Afo. So, good day to all. I am Yinka Oyeyipo, Ife-Med set of 2005. Thank you for having me on this forum. It's a pleasure to have that opportunity to share my experiences with you. But before I go into the details, I want to congratulate you all in your clinical years, part 4, 5, and 6. I wish you the best. Continue your hard work and be focused. Medicine is certainly rewarding. And for the organizers of this forum, great job. You have got a good thing going. And I wish we actually had something like this at the time we were graduating in 2005. So as I tell you my experiences, I will let you know at each stage what my thoughts were, what my questions were at that time. And looking back, I'll also give an advice on what could have been done better. So at the time I finished from IFE in 2005, my first question was, what next after graduation? Which one will come first? My goal, I was interested in postgraduate studies, master's or PhD, whichever one. And I also wanted to do residency. My questions were how to combine both. Which one to start with? Where and when? All possible questions I had at that time. So, and as I'm giving this talk, just go ahead and compile your questions. At the end of the talk, you can bring up the questions. So at that point in time, looking backwards, my advice will be, it's okay to have those goals, and you do not necessarily need to know the details. These goals can change. They change all the time. So don't stress out on this. So from November 2005 to 2006, I did house job in OAUTHC. During my house job, I wrote and passed primaries in ophthalmology. Then I had to wait from November 2006 till February 2007 for the next batch of coppers to go for NYSC. So my thought then was this: another wait after long years of studying medical school. In my mind, I was not ready for any form of delay. My question then was, when will I start residency or postgraduate studies? It was all up in the air. And by this time, my friends in secondary school that did 4 or 5 year courses like economics, like business admin, some of them were already managers in banks, etc. And others were doing very well in their careers. My advice, again, do not stress out on this. There is always a reason for everything. And there is no need to compare yourself with anyone. And you are going to realize this in a couple of years. So I was posted to Dutse in Jigawa State for NYSC. My question at that time was this: is this the best place for me to go? When I plan to do residency as soon as possible, I also plan to do postgraduate studies. But you know, a quiet and remote area sometimes help you to stay more focused and reassess your path to achieve your goals. So after work, I went to Dutse, Jigawa State. After work, there was really nothing else for me to do. I had so much time on my hands that I decided to write the TOEFL, GRE. I got my letters of recommendation, and then I went ahead and applied to the US for master's as well as PhD. Also during NYSC, I met some other new medical graduates just like myself, and our concern was how to get into residency. Some of them were from LASUF, and they told me that I can just go ahead and approach the HOD in LASUF Department of Ophthalmology. So my advice, wherever you are or wherever you find yourself, use whatever resources you have as a stepping stone to achieve your goals. Towards the end of my NYSC, I was offered a pay raise, maybe ×3 or ×4 of what they were paying me as a copper, to stay behind and work, but I had other plans. So after NYSC, I went to LASUT. I discussed my situation with the HOD, who advised me to go ahead and apply. And I was taken for residency training. So about the same time, I secured admission to start PhD in biomedical sciences at Oklahoma State University, but I had no funding. I got all my paperwork. I got the visa, everything. My question then was, where will I get funding? The only money I had was from house job and NYSC. The total of the two will not even be near tuition fee for 5 years of PhD in the United States. In my mind, my plan was just to continue residency at LASUF. So that same week, or I believe the next week, I got a letter of notification from the university. I was awarded full funding for the first year. And if I perform well, I will continue to receive the funding until I complete my PhD. And that was it for me. So I started PhD in biomedical sciences. I was fortunate to have a supervisor that was God sent. He and his wife showed a lot of interest in my progress. They did everything they could to make sure that I was fine, not only academically, but all around. At times I spent weekends at their house, weekend getaways, go for jet skiing, etc. So my advice, if you are interested in postgraduate studies, look beyond just applying for masters. Apply for PhD as well. You never know. Give yourself that chance. I got admission, I also got funding. So the PhD was meant to last for 5 years, from 2008 till 2013. And I did so well in all my courses that 1 year was taken off my 5 years PhD program, and I completed it in 4 years. So at the time I was finishing, I was awarded the best graduating student in 2012. Also during the PhD, I wrote and passed all the USMLE steps. I also did observership in Georgia. I had the opportunity of meeting other Nigerian physicians who were already practicing here in the United States. They were very helpful. They gave me words of encouragement. They were very supportive. And I was able to get letters of recommendation from those physicians. My advice, again, wherever you are or wherever you find yourself, always make use of whatever resources you have as a stepping stone to achieve your goals. So after completing PhD, I started postdoctoral fellowship at Oklahoma State University. At the same time, I also got job offers in other places, in Maine, in Johns Hopkins, and also around the same time, I matched to start residency training in internal medicine in New York. And that was my long-awaited goal. I went for it. So after residency, I decided to move to Florida, where I've been working since I completed residency. And I work with, I believe, the largest hospital group in Southwest Florida area. I'm a member of the ethics committee, as Afo mentioned earlier, as well as the pharmacy and therapeutics quality committee. Now, one cannot mention all these without talking about family. A supportive family is certainly an important aspect of this journey because no man is an island. If you need help, ask for it. Ask your family, ask friends to help you. There is no need to try to be superhuman. In fact, you will realize that fast. For me, it was a long but rewarding journey. And based on my experiences, here are my pieces of advice. Stay focused on your goals, continue your hard work, stay away from negative people. You may think that what they say will not affect you. We're all humans and negativity is not good for anyone. Instead, surround yourself with positive, goal-oriented, and ambitious people. Strive to get the best out of every ugly situation. Whatever delays you may have in medical school, get the best out of it. Do not compare yourself with others. There is more than enough space under the sun for everyone to succeed. Remember, God's timing is the best. He has a purpose for your life, and it's not always exactly the same as other people. Finally, dream big, just like the saying, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will land among the stars. For those of you with talents, you need to develop your talents. Along your path, look for opportunities to use your talents because this will make you stand out among the crowd. So for every successful person out there is always a story. If you ask them to sit down and tell you their experiences, you're going to realize that they went through a lot of things. What people see is the success. What they do not see are things like the sacrifices that person made. Not only the sacrifices the individual made, the sacrifices the family made for that person to be successful, the rejections the person faced, the late nights, the risk the person took at different stages of his or her life, the failures, the doubts, the criticisms, the discipline, the persistence and hard work. So from my own journey, I have learned a lot of lessons, but I'm going to highlight two of them. I have learned to be focused on my goals and also the need to have grit. Grit is perseverance and strength of character. And if I can do it, you can do it better. Questions for me?
Thank you, Dr. Ibitokun, for that. Sorry. Two things to mention now: being focused and being able to take risk in life. A quick one. I don't know much about biomedical science. Why was that your choice? Can you tell us more? We have med students among us. I'm sure some of them might not even know what biomedical science is all about.
Not just some of them, even some of us don't know what it is.
Some of us. Can you please share light on that and why the choice of biomedical sciences for you?
So for me at that time, I wanted to be involved in research. Now, biomedical science is a very broad field. It talks about different things, a lot of things about genetics. And a lot of the things I did, we did some of them in medical school. We did a lot of biochemistry, a lot of physiology. In addition, we now did things like statistics, molecular biology, a lot of things that has to do with research. So it's a very broad field. It has to do with, so for me, I did a lot of research on the eye. And, my focus then, before I left Nigeria, was to do residency in ophthalmology. So when I found myself in an environment to do research and I had that opportunity to pick any form of research I wanted to do, I decided to do it on the eye. So I worked mainly on the cornea. So it's a very broad field. It's anything that has to do with research involving genetics, science, anything that has to do with health. A lot of people did research on Alzheimer's disease. We go into the molecular level. We do a lot of basic science research. And then we try to collate our data. And if you want to do any form of, when they are trying to create Medicaid drugs to use for clinical research, we usually start with basic science research. So the PhD I did in biomedical sciences has to do with the beginning of the research. Like you start with basic science research, you use, instead of using humans, you start with animals, you do a bunch of research, and then you collate your data before it now moves into human trials. But first of all, you have to start with animals. And that's the basic science research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ohunakin. Thank you for explaining biomedical sciences to an extent for me. If anybody asks me, I will say it's all about repairing of hospital equipment and co. Now I know better.
Medical physics.
So,
well, it's not about physics, I can tell you. And I see a question that popped up just now. Someone was asking.
Just came up.
Yeah, no, it's just like fresh from OAUTHT. No additional qualification. It's just like graduating. Once you finish from part 6, if you're interested in postgraduate studies, don't just limit yourself to masters. You can apply for PhD as well. No additional qualification. I got in. I got full funding. If I can, you can.
Now that's very interesting, Dr. Ekwa. Thank you very much. That was going to be my question too. So fresh from medical school in Ife, you can apply straight for PhD in the US or anywhere else?
Yes.
Most of us didn't know that was possible. Even I didn't know that was possible.
It's possible. That was what I did.
Yeah.
Additional, okay. In fact, I initially thought that, you do masters first, and then when you get your master's, then you apply for PhD. I mean, that's a long route. You don't need to do that. We spent how many years in medical school?
Let's not go there. Off your bike. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, okay, there's another question. Yeah.
Yes,
okay, thank you, Dr. Ohunakin. Why the choice of?
There was a question from Dr. Ari.
Why the choice of high?
Why I did my research on the eye? Hello? What was the question?
I think his question was, why did you choose the eye as your research focus?
I was in ophthalmology before I left Nigeria.
Okay.
Natural. So I just went for it.
Good. And Dr. Ari asked a question too. I'm sure this is still about the PhD. Is that still possible now?
I believe so. I don't think there are changes since then. I mean, I didn't do anything additional. The only thing I did was I wrote GRE TOEFL. Okay. And then I applied. And they were even surprised in the school because at the end of each year, we meet with the HOD and some other faculty members. And they were very impressed. You know, I was like, well, English is the language of instruction right from kindergarten in Nigeria. So that was the only thing I wrote. No additional,
Very good.
no
Thank you.
hyperload. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's a question on there for you, but before we go into that, so in your opinion, the training in IFE prepares you well enough to go straight into a PhD from MDCHB?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
This is serious.
There's a question. It's serious there. There's a question there from Peter Aladielu.
Okay. What's the question? I don't see it on my screen.
It says, thank you for the talk, Ma. You have an inspiring story. Does a PhD give you an edge into residency training in the United States?
So from my perspective, it should, but for foreign medical graduates, it's, you know, when you come in, the closer your year of graduation is to the time you are applying, the easier it is for you to get into residency training. Now, if you go through my own route, it's kind of long. Most of the students here, the citizens here, they do it concurrently. They do medical school together with PhD. That's where you don't do one, you don't finish one and then start with another, and you know. So from my perspective, it probably did, but looking back, I think the earlier you're able to get into residency, to apply for residency training, the easier it is to get in. If I
Good one.
I mean, the PhD program I didn't write USMLE before I came into the US. So I had more than enough time to get used to the system, write all the steps. I did observership in between, and then I finished my PhD program. Okay. So that's the benefit the route I took, it worked for me anyway.
Yeah. And I suspect it's likely to give you the edge into it. And that would bring me to one question, which I was just wondering. One of the aims of this whole forum is to start to get our medical students in Nigeria involved in the research process. We all know that all of these things count when you're applying for residency and everything, what your CV looks like, your recommendations and everything. Do you think there's any possibility of research that we can do now to involve students in Nigeria, even if it's just data collection, even if it's writing part of the discussion, something, just so we can start to get their CVs ready for life after medical school?
So from what I know, as far as the United States is concerned, I think generally you have to be on ground to do those research yourself. It's not going to be remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about review articles? Let's not call it research. Let's say we're writing a review article.
I'm not so sure. I can't say.
Okay.
Yeah. What I did, it's a lot of hands-on.
Yeah, that's a PhD project, which has to be hands-on. What I'm thinking of is, let's say Yinka decides to write a review article now on treatment of glaucoma generally. Is there a way to bring in medical students from Nigeria and say, we want them to be part of this project so that they already have publications to their name even before they graduate? Like I see my students here and half of them have 2-3 publications before they even finish medical school, or even presentations. They have something else in the CV and the portfolio that's slightly different.
They should be able to do that.
They should be able to.
They should be able to do that, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because that's what we're hoping to move on to the next stage.
Yeah. One other important part is I think I saw a question just now, but one important part is they need to do observership. It's very important. If I foreign medical graduates, it's a little bit different from what we did in Nigeria. It's the same basics, but the way you go about it is a little bit different. There are some cultural changes that you only get used to when you're on ground. So the observership for me, I believe, was important. It played a role for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. So there's another question that's popped in there. Can you see, or should I read it out for you?
Please read it out.
Okay, our phone is back now. I think this one says, thank you very much, Ma, for the talk. Your story is very inspiring. Even as an internal medicine specialist, how have you been able to cope with the transitioning from biomedical science into being an internal medicine hospitalist?
So it's actually interwoven. It's not difficult at all. You know, during my program, we did a lot of biochemistry, which is actually the same as what you guys are doing in medical school, but it's much more advanced. We did molecular biology and some other things. We did a lot of physiology, and of course, the training in IFE will go a long way to help you understand all these things. In fact, it's you know, here in the US, when you see patients in the hospital, they've gone on Google. Once they have a diagnosis, at times, once they see their results, maybe it's a pathology result or something, they've had those, I mean, they're on Google. They have an idea of what is going on. Even though the idea may not be entirely accurate, they are waiting for you to come. And then they ask you like a million questions. So the physiology I did then comes in handy. You know, all those things that they are teaching you in part 2, part 3 about sodium, potassium pump, all those things, they are very important. So I did it again when I did PhD in Oklahoma State University, and those things come in handy. So they are interwoven. And then by the time you are writing your USMLE, you are revising those things again. And then when you go through training, it reinforces everything. Yeah. So it's interwoven. There's no issue. In fact, it makes it easier to blend in.
Thank you. Dr. Ohunakin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Oyeyepo. Do we have any more questions? I can't see any in the chat box. You are free to raise your hand to talk. If you don't want us to hear your voice, you can type it. Well,
so there's another question there from someone in the chat box. Says,
okay.
So
did you compromise on doing a residency in ophthalmology?
So at times in life, we have targets, we have goals. Some of those targets, we meet them. Some of those, we do not. What happens if we do not get some? We move on. And like I continue to say, wherever you are, whatever resources you have at your disposal, make good use of it. Well, some people may say it's a compromise. It probably is, but I can tell you that with what I'm doing currently, I feel I'm okay with it. I'm satisfied with it. Now, the other thing is this. Residency training in ophthalmology in the US is very highly competitive. So you rarely see foreign graduates getting into ophthalmology. I wanted to do it as well at the time I was applying. I did not get in, but I matched into internal medicine. So, like I said, there are certain things that you may be able to achieve. There are some that you just have to drop and move on. So it's probably one of those things.
Thank you, Dr. Oyeyepo. Like you said, if life gives you pepper, make sure you make pepper soup. That is what happened. You couldn't get ophthalmology, but you went for internal medicine. So sometimes what you want might not be what you get.
Yeah.
Med school, post-med school, I wanted to be ortho surgeon, but I ended up being a family physician and a palliative physician. So along the way, some things will just happen that you just have to reroute yourself to another specialty. So more questions, please.
Yeah, there's a question that's come through as a direct message. says, is it
Okay.
necessary to do a PhD if you want to go into clinical practice but still want to do research? Or does residency suffice to go into research?
I don't think it's a necessity to get into residency. You do not necessarily have to do PhD. Does that answer your question?
Sorry, I think so. The question came in from one of our listeners. I think the question, the whole plank is, do you have to do that PhD if you want to do clinical practice and research? Or if you don't do the PhD, can you still end up being a researcher through clinical practice?
Yes, absolutely. You can. It all depends on what you want.
Absolutely. So it's quite flexible in most places that you can veer off into research from any line along your clinical practice. So it just depends on you. A PhD helps you know how to do research properly. That's the main benefit of a PhD. So those people who had the benefit of doing it, like Yinka, will tell you it's very useful. You can design your own studies, even multi-center trials and everything. Those of us who have not done a PhD will struggle to do something like that and would always need people like Yinka to help us plan and execute any research. And that's the truth of it that we want to do. There's another question there for you, Yinka.
So what's the duration of residency in internal medicine?
It's 3 years. 3 years for everything, for internal medicine.
Any exams like part 1 and part 2? MRCPC?
No. So you do a bunch of like in-service tests during residency, but at the end of it all, then you do the board exam.
Okay. So you still have an exam.
After the board exam, what next?
After the board exam, then you can practice, you get a job, and then you can join the maintenance of certification. I think before it used to be every 2 years, like you do a series of exams to maintain your certification. But I think they prolonged it since the COVID. I think it's now every 5 years. I'm not so certain. And then for the main board exam, you do that exam like every 10 years. That's the big exam for us. Internal medicine. Yeah.
Okay. Can I say something at this point? One of the reasons we set up this forum is to help people. And you made a very valid point to say people need to do observerships, especially because the system is quite alien to us. We need people to help medical students, current medical students, to do observerships anywhere they want to do observership. Either it's in the hospital in Warri with Afo, or with me over here, or with Yinka or somebody. I'm just begging the older guys, I don't want to say the old guys, the older guys, if you are able to arrange observerships, the students can get in touch with us via email and everything. I will be linking them up with any of us. Please just encourage them, help us facilitate it. I'm happy to get people into pediatric observerships because that's the only system I frankly understand. If it's pediatrics or neonates you want to get observership into in the UK, let me know, we can make it work. For all the other guys, anything you can arrange for the students will be so helpful. These are IFE students, they're not just ordinary students. And you might laugh at it, but I've seen a situation where a doctor applied for work here in the UK and put that she graduated from IFE, which was 2 years after me. And I get a call from the clinical director of that department saying, oh, hello, there's somebody who's applied for a job with us. Do you know this person? And I looked at him and said, oh, yes, I know her very well, although I haven't spoken to her in like 10 years. I know her very well. Oh, is she good? I said, if she's from IFE, you can take it that she's very good. And believe you me, this was before this person even did the PLAB exams. But the hospital was desperate enough to offer her a job and say, we'll support you to do your PLAB within the next 3 years to finish the whole process into the UK. So these things happen. And if they do, just because you've gone to IFE, maintain the links with the college, maintain the links with other people in the department. It is very, very helpful to have these connections. So I'll beg the older guys, please, let's arrange observership when the requests start to come. For the medical students, don't hold back. Get in touch with us via emails or through this forum at any point in time. We are happy to link you up with whoever you need to speak to. The whole point is to get everybody to where they want to get to in life. Okay, sorry, I'll fall back to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to point this out. Observership doesn't have to be done outside the country. We have a couple of classmates that have their own private facilities. Absolutely. So definitely you can contact them, get to do observership with them, see how things are done, how they run the hospital. I think Dr. Festus Osai is basically into ultrasound.
Yeah.
And
the wizard.
He will be willing to help Dr. Bengola Faretu, Hakim Basmos, and a couple of other guys, Steve Lamaduro, Ops and Gynae. So we have people around us here in Nigeria. It doesn't have to be. If you have the opportunity of going abroad, yes, please do. But then you can do observership here also in Nigeria.
So
I think there's one other question. Said, how easy is it to get an observership in surgery in the United States?
So I did my own path has been through internal medicine. For surgery, you probably can get in, but the main question is not just the observership, it's matching into residency. I know that for surgery, it's kind of, it's very competitive getting into surgery specialties. You probably can get in the observership easily, but if the main thing is the residency, then your scores probably has to be like perfect scores in the USMLE. So I really don't know much about getting into it directly. I'm not so sure. And I can only give you information that I'm certain about. Because if the main aim is to get into residency training, you want to do observership in surgery, the observership, it's not just stopping there. After the observership, what about matching into the residency training in surgery? So that's where the barrier is for foreign medical graduates. So to be able to get in, you probably need to have very high scores in the USMLE, like everything just has to be perfect.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yinka. Any more questions?
I can't see any questions coming up anymore.
I think my mom logged in. I'll just say hi to her. Hello, mommy.
Okay.
All right.
So that's really good. I'm not sure. I can't see any more questions coming up here. But if you've got any questions, I'll put the email address again in the chat box for everybody. We do check it at least once a week, at least, sometimes more than that. But if you send your questions in or requests for observership or mentorship into that, we will try our best to match you up with somebody who can lead you in that path. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I'll let Yinka talk.
There's a question, Alaba.
There's one question that just came in.
Oh,
is
okay.
the pathway to neurosurgery residency?
No,
is there anything
like easier pathway? No, there's no easier pathway for anything, I believe. And to match into surgery, it's difficult for me to say specifically because I did internal medicine. What I know about it is that it's highly competitive. You need to have near perfect scores. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Near perfect score, what do you mean? 100 over 100?
As close to 100 as possible.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. In all the steps. So you have to pass all your USMLE steps at one attempt, and to score very high in them. But generally, surgery is highly competitive for foreign graduates.
Okay. Another question says, without doing PhD, how many years will it take to complete all these steps of USMLE?
It depends on you. For me, I probably did everything in maybe 2.5 years. It all depends on the individual. If you are able to do all the step 1, 2, and 3, and step 2 is divided in less than 2 years, that's fine. But it's voluminous. And when you write those exams, you want to make sure that you score high in them. You don't want to have to go back and write it, because it's going to reduce your chances of matching into residency.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Oyeyepo. Do we have more questions? I don't think so.
Yeah, there was a request for someone. Oh, I think Dr. Aribi just posted a question.
Yeah, but Aribi said for consultants who want a year or 2 years fellowship in an area of medicine, is USMLE necessary?
To that question, I do not know. I have to find out.
I'm not sure about the US. I don't know how they work, but the UK has what we call IMT. It's International Medical Trainee training, which is a 2-year program. It's a very well-structured program, which they do with different specialties, surgery, medicine. Pediatrics is very well established for that, where they give you 2 years to attach to usually a tertiary hospital, which is like the highest end of the practice. It's very competitive. It's announced every year, and I'll look out and post out the information to all of us at the next meeting when the next dates for applications will be. But that's for the UK. I don't know much about the US. But that's, even at consultant level, you can do those 2 good years at the highest end of whatever specialty you're working with. And it's a very well recognized program at the moment. Okay. There was a last question.
You know what? I can find out and get back to you. But
Thank you very much, Inka.
Thank you.
So there's another question here for people to prepare for.
The question says, IMG for USMLE. I don't understand the question very well. Do you advise, ma'am, that an IMG, international medical graduate, to prepare for USMLE in their country or in the US?
I don't think it matters, honestly. If you're able to prepare for it well, the most important will be scoring high, preparing for it well and scoring high, and having access to all those online resources like UWorld and some other resources, and getting the right books to prepare for the exam. Now, for the CSA, I believe, I'm not sure if it's still done in, I think you have to be in the US to do the CSA.
Okay. Thank you.
I think Dele is on this forum. He probably
He just sent a message concerning Dr. Aribi's question. That from what he said, I think it is possible for consultants in Nigeria to do some fellowship programs in the United States without USMLE.
Yeah, Sharif has done some.
That's Carolyn's question.
Yeah, Sharif has done. Akim has done a few in the US. So, and Professor Akinola also did some in pediatric orthopedics. So, obviously possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, our time is fast spent. In the absence of no questions, I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Olayinka Oyeyepo. Thumbs up for you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to have you on this forum.
Igbo Sazo, thank you very much, Dr. Inka. It's been a pleasure having everyone today. We're going to stop recording now and end this program officially. But of course, we always have fellowship.
Thank you so much. It's nice having you here.
Fellowship after fellowship with the members of the class. Everybody else is free to leave at that point where we start having our chat. See you again next month. Thanks so much for your help. Ciao.